Today on Impactful Teamwork, I want to talk about the topic of purpose and why purpose is so important in your business and how you can create it and the hidden benefits, really, of having a really clear and well-defined and articulated purpose in your business. So, welcome. My name's Julia Felton, and I'm going to be your host for the next 20 minutes or so while we delve into the topic of purpose and its importance to teams. And I want to draw on some material today from my book, Unbridled Business: Unlocking Nature's Wisdom to Reinvent Leadership. Because I think purpose is really that key pillar that everything else hangs off of: structure, team effectiveness, team dynamics, performance. If we don't get purpose right, then nothing else falls into place. And we often talk about purpose before profit. And I'm a big advocate in that because I think if we can get a really clearly defined purpose in the business that all of our team members are committed to, aligned to, pull towards, then that enables us to create a high performance business that ultimately will deliver more productivity and profitability to the business. So I thought I'd just start with this quote from Roy Spencer Jr., which is, if you have a purpose and can articulate it with clarity and passion, then everything makes sense and everything flows. And we live in a world nowadays where leaders, I think, really understand the power of purpose. It's no longer greenwashing on the wall where people are saying, oh, this is the purpose of the business, but we're not really living by that mantra. It's actually becoming something that companies live by day in, day out. And why is that? It's because it starts giving a sense of direction to the business. It makes going to work feel like we're making a real difference in the world. We're actually contributing to something. It gives our team members a sense of belonging, that they are not just going to work to get a paycheck and line the pockets of their bosses, which is what some team members think. They're actually going to work and actually contributing and making a massive difference. And Deloitte have done quite a lot of research into this particular area. And a study that they did showed that the millennial generation, a whole 84% of them considered it their duty to improve the world through their lifestyle and careers. And I think it's definitely true that Gen Y is no longer interested in just a job. They're seeking out experiences, a rationale to contribute something. And so what I'm certainly seeing and observing is the paycheck is really not a motivation to work in the younger generation. And certainly in the workforce today, as we know, we have a multitude of generations working together, and each of them has very different personal drivers that get them to the work in the morning. But Deloitte also found in their core belief and culture survey that organizations with a strong sense of purpose, and Deloitte defined that as a focus on making a positive impact on employees, customers, and society in general, they tend to be more confident in their growth prospects. And they're more likely to invest in initiatives that lead to long-term growth and enjoy higher levels of confidence among the key stakeholders. So there is something about purpose creates longevity within the business. Because this whole idea of purpose or why first came around from the work from Simon Sinek in his book, Start With Why. And the hypothesis that Simon Sinek put forward in that book is that companies tend to look at what, how, and why the businesses exist. So we often tend to talk about what a business does and how they do it, but not why it exists. And what he suggests is actually that every single company should really start with why they're in existence. So, an example of Apple, their why is to challenge the status quo and create innovative products that are personal and people just love. So, why would a company really want to focus on their why they're in business, what their purpose is, rather than what they're doing? This is where the longevity comes in, because what we've seen is that Apple have that why that they state to create innovative products that are personal and that people love. What that's enabled Apple to do is expand their product line into multiple different areas. We started off with obviously originally the original Apple computer, right? And then they ventured into iPhones. We've got watches, we've got multiple types of computers with iPads, Mac Airs, MacBooks, and now AirTags and different things like that. So when a company starts with the why, the reason that they exist, it enables them to have a tranche of different products under that enables them therefore to be able to adapt to the different trading conditions that happen. And we all know that we're living in a world where reinvention is happening really quickly. And therefore, a product that we have, its shelf life is a lot shorter. Gone are the days where a product was in existence for 30 or 40 years. Many products, probably their shelf life is maybe 5 or 6 years. And that's probably being generous. Many products with the advent of technology are just changing so rapidly. As a business, you want to have a business model that enables you to be able to offer multiple products and services to your customers. And you can do that when you've really got a really strong purpose as the reason that you want to be in business. So the why kind of provides this umbrella for what companies do. And in the Deloitte review, it carried on to show that when you had a really clear why, then that enabled people to collaborate more effectively together. And we talk a lot on this podcast about the power of collaboration, how important that is in business. And I think we see people collaborating because they feel like they belong. They feel connected to the organization, and therefore they have a reason for doing what they're doing. They have a purpose, they have a reason. They have a great belief because they're committed to the common what. What are we doing? Because we know why we're doing it, and this is what we're doing in order to achieve why we're doing it. And then also, it's how people behave here. Because when we understand and we share a common understanding of how things are done and what needs to happen, then we can all work together more effectively. So I really love that thought of belonging, belief, and behavior, and how purpose drives all of those within an organization. I think this quote is really pertinent from Deloitte from their book As One, which is about individual action, collective power, which was individual action and commitment to a common goal. That is what makes a team work and a company succeed, a society flourish, and a nation triumph. So the purpose becomes this common goal, this guiding light that pulls everyone together in the same direction. It energizes the system, and I think it helps us overcome all of those, what's the word I want to use? All of those things that might distract us from getting where we want to go, because we've got absolute clarity around the common purpose and everyone becomes aligned. And the purpose I often see is a bit like a magnet, right? You see it pulsing out there and it's pulling everyone towards it. So when we've got a really compelling purpose in our business, it helps us attract the right resources. So we get the right type of team members showing up, the right type of customers, the right type of suppliers, the right type of investors. And of course, when everyone's aligned, that's what makes things much, much easier because we're all on the same page. And so that really helps reduce the friction within a business ecosystem. And one of the things that I see quite frequently within organizations is when we get tension and friction within the business environment, it's because things are at odds. So either team members or customers or suppliers aren't aligned with the purpose of the business, or there's some values that the business is implementing that are misaligned with either, again, what team members or customers or suppliers want. And actually, this was really highlighted to me earlier on today when I was coaching one of my clients, because it became very apparent that the business she was working in, she wasn't aligned with their purpose, and there was a bit of a values mismatch going on. And it really started explaining, as we unpacked this and discovered this, why this particular team member is quite frustrated in the organization she's working in. And in fact, I've seen numerous team members actually quit organizations where they're not aligned with the purpose of the business and the values the business has. So when we can get that alignment, we attract the right team members, then we do get a high performance team because everyone's on the same page, pulling in the same direction. So we talked earlier on about how purpose drives profit. And what I'm definitely seeing in business today is that businesses with a kind of higher sense of social purpose, they deliver great value and their customers really enjoy it, and they get financially rewarded by the customers keep coming back. And so when a company has a purpose of doing good, helping others, serving the community in whatever way, shape, or form, we create this virtuous circle. When the business is doing well, it enables the organization to do good. And when the organization does good, it contributes to other organizations, contributes to the community, and so it does well. And so we create this self-fulfilling prophecy. This self-fulfilling prophecy of increased profits coming through increased performance is actually borne out by a number of pieces of research. And there was one done back in 2010 by Merson Marsteller and the IMD Corporate Purpose Impact Study, which actually revealed that companies with a strong and well-communicated corporate purpose could improve their financial performance by up to 17%. And that was just in the short term. The longer term benefits of having team members aligned with a strong sense of purpose is pretty much incalculable. So, according to some research from Monitor Deloitte, companies that have a clear and consistent purpose can achieve benefits in 6 different areas. And the first of those is in terms of brand and reputation. So 78% of consumers are more likely to remember companies that have a strong sense of purpose. And brands with a strong purpose are 6 times more likely to be protected in the face of negative publicity. The second area they looked at was sales and innovation, where 53% of CXOs reported new revenue streams from socially conscious offerings. And also sustainably marketed products compared with conventionally marketed products saw a close to 40% price premium. And we've definitely seen this in the marketplace where consumers are actually looking and are happy to invest slightly more in purchasing products and services that are ethically sourced and are out there to do good in the world. There's also an area of operational efficiency. Nearly 65% of companies with product sustainability programs achieve lower logistics and supply chain costs. And organizations where team members were more connected to the team purpose saw a 13% decrease in safety incidents, an 8% decrease in turnover, and a 4.4% increase in profitability. So again, these great benefits of being able to galvanize our team behind a cohesive and empowering purpose saves us money, increases productivity, has more engaged team members, so we've got less turnover, so that all, is part of a positive impact on the business. In terms of talent, the research also showed that 78% of people indicated they prefer to work for purpose-driven companies. And 50% of workers and 75% of millennials would take a pay cut to work at an environmentally responsible company. In terms of capital access and market valuations, the research showed that higher purpose brands could double their market value faster. And companies that met shareholder expectations achieved a higher return on equity. And there's also some risk mitigation here, because 15% of companies would be unprofitable if accounting for the environmental damage that they caused. So Companies with a strong purpose also tend to have a ethos that they want to do no harm to the environment. And what the research is suggesting is that many companies obviously do have a negative impact on the environment, including environmental damage, which is why companies want to look to try and mitigate that because it can be quite significant and could really adversely affect their P&L if they were actually measured on that. And the research also showed that purpose-driven companies would actually increase their EBITDA, earnings before tax, depreciation, and amortization, by about 7 percentage points over companies that didn't. So there's a lot of financial reasons for getting really clear on your purpose. And I think the final thing I really want to say here about purpose is very aspirational. It's not something that's on a to-do list that we achieve and we get ticked off. If it's really to work and become the guiding force for the business, it needs to be so aspirational, it becomes the true north that guides each and everyone's actions on a daily basis. It becomes the compass that shows us where to go. And it's what keeps us going through the days when business gets tough, things don't go to plan. When we know that we're in business to make a difference for other people and to have an impact on society and help others, and the purpose is never about us or our direct company, then that is so much more intrinsically motivating for people when they realize that they are working towards something more than just themselves. So that's why I'm excited to invite you to our next 20-minute teaching. Our next 20-minute teaching is going to be on Tuesday, the 9th of September at 9:30 in the morning. And we are going to be looking at the topic of purpose to profits and how you can turn your busy team into an aligned high performance machine by cutting the noise, ditching the silos, and finally getting everyone pulling in the same direction. And during that 20-minute teaching, I'm going to be sharing with you my 3-step purpose to profits framework. So if you'd like to join us on that webinar, please register at businesshorsepower.com/teamship teachings. So it's teamship and then a hyphen and teachings. And I'll put a link in the show notes for you. I remember when I first came across the concept of a conscious business and this whole concept of purpose before profit. And I remember it making so much sense to me. And it was from the work of John Mackey in his book, Conscious Business. And I remember at the time when I stumbled across the work, I was at a little bit of a loss in my life. I didn't really know where I was going, what I was doing. And when I really took time out to really figure out what was my purpose, what was the difference I wanted to make in the world, and how did I want to help organizations eliminate the toxic workplace that's often out there, and how can we help organizations create high performing teams where everyone wants to contribute, make a difference, and is really committed to supporting and collaborating with each other. We get rid of the egos in business, and it's all about how do we work together in this whole model of teamship that I talk about. Then I was like, oh, wow, now I've got something really interesting that excites me and gets me out of bed in the morning. And of course, I put fuel on that when I married that with actually the way that we can do that and help organizations get to that point is when we look to nature for the solutions. And particularly, obviously, my herd of horses have loads of answers about this particular topic. And that is what galvanized me when I realized that it wasn't about me and my business and me making money because Julia needed money. It was about what I could go out there and share that could help others to improve others people's lives and help team members unlock the 90% of hidden potential that most people have by helping them to work in a more effective manner, by improving their teamwork and helping them understand their value to an organization. Purpose before profit, so important. I think it's the foundational piece of every single business. It's where whenever I work with a business owner, we start is with what's the purpose? Because if we don't know why we're in business, what's the point of being in business? Everything starts with context, and the purpose gives everyone a context for why we're doing what we're doing. So again, I would encourage you to join me for the next 20-minute teaching on From Purpose to Profit, where I'll share with you my 3-step formula on how to help you do that. You need to go to businesshorsepower.com/teamship teachings to sign up for that. But I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Impactful Teamwork. And my invitation to you is that this month you've really buckle down, focus on purpose, get really clear in your own mind what the purpose is of your business, and then share it with your team members. And if you don't have a clear purpose, you might even want to invite your team members in to have a discussion with you about what they think the purpose of the vision should be, so that we can get some synergy and get everyone pulling together in the same direction. But don't keep your purpose in a locked drawer on your desk. You need to share that with everyone. You need to get everyone bought into the purpose in order that you can create that high-performing team that can totally transform your business. And that's why, as I said, teamwork is this superpower that we have in business that many of us aren't leveraging to its full potential. So until next week, have an amazing time. Bye-bye.